Hello, my friends. Let's talk about trauma. So, what is trauma? Well, trauma is perceived reality, right? So, something can happen and a group of people can experience all the same thing, and each person perceives through their own lens of perception the situation. And then they process it through their mind. They process their emotions, their visual experience, whatever they perceive through their sensory input. So one traumatic event can have many different perceptions. And these things depend upon a few factors, right? Vantage point is important. So, where a person was, how they perceived the situation matters. Their inner world matters, right? What was going on at the time of the incident? Where was their mind already? Were they in a positive mindset? Were they in a negative mindset? Were they suffering from mental chaos, or were they already calm? How do they process emotions? Are they a type of person to inwardly take everything, or do they project outward? What is their previous experience? Have they already experienced something similar to a situation that they're currently experiencing? Do they have wisdom from experience to go on? Or is this a completely new type of scenario for them? Are they experiencing a traumatic event for the first time? Do they have previous trauma related to this type of trauma? Right? So a lot of things come into play when we talk about trauma. People talk about trauma healing and post-traumatic stress disorder and all of these things, thinking that trauma only affects people who are in war zones, when in reality, there are a lot of different things that can cause trauma, because how we perceive and process information is what determines whether it was considered traumatic or not, right? And who's to say something is traumatic for another person or not, right? It's based on a person's individual experience of life. So as we go through life, we have to recognize that all of the different data, information that we are taking in as a human being through our senses, our sensory input, can cause trauma or strengthen us or give us challenges or be considered a lesson or a blessing. It's all dependent on our perception. So if a person is empathetic in nature, if they're a compassionate type of person and they come into contact with a lot of people on a regular basis and they converse and connect energy with these people and they hear stories, traumatic stories, is that empathetic person keeping it in their mind for longer than that conversation and taking on another person's trauma? Are we collectively pulling each other down sometimes unconsciously by feeling so much of what another person's feeling to a point where it's defeating the purpose of being compassionate altogether, right? We can listen and uplift, but we also need to understand the mind so we're not dragging each other down. So all this sensory input that we take in, it leaves impressions with us. So let's take an example of being at like a 4th of July festival. A lot of people are there and somebody gets injured. The impressions that are left on the people who were in the vicinity of where a crisis happened may leave this 4th of July festival with impressions left that create fear or some sort of tendency to have an aversion to fireworks, where the other people at this event may have been completely unaware of what was taking place on the other side of the event and left the festival feeling, oh my gosh, I want to do this every year. So we have to consider not just the vantage point, but if you're even in the area, right? If you're even influenced by a situation at all. If you're directly influenced by it, then you have a closer energetic connection with it. It's personal. If you hear about it through another person, it's like, well, I wasn't there, but I am capable with my imagination and empathetic nature to literally put myself in that situation when I'm listening to the story. And in effect, I am then there taking on that kind of energetic entanglement with the situation. And now it has become personal, right? So that's something we don't want to do. We do want to understand each other and be able to walk a mile in another's shoes. But when we do this repetitively again and again, we're actually being self-destructive if we allow it to continue. So there's like a fine line between being compassionate and taking on someone else's actual energetic troubles by being empathetic. So with trauma, we need to be very cautious in our own mental detachment. Compassionate, yes. Attached, no, because then I become part of that sinking ship. I'm not able to put the air masks on everybody else if I don't wear my own, right? In a airplane situation. So make sure that your mental detachment is always there. Your oxygen is safe as you are trying to uplift others. That is empathy in action. That is actual productive, compassionate nature rather than pulling the ship down with adding your energy to it in that way. Okay, so there's so much that goes into mental training. And I think that focusing on trauma, PTSD, anxiety, all these things is really important to help see the complexity of the mind and therefore understand that mental training takes time, effort, and somebody that has studied enough to be able to systematically bring people through the process of making the unconscious conscious in a way that we can emotionally process and not bring ourselves down. Not nitpicking, seeing the wholeness and completeness of self and adjusting perspective. Some of us spend our entire time here on earth studying these things to be able to walk other people through it. So long story short, there is a systematic approach that is written and ready to go. And that will be coming to you if you're in need, if you're interested in really mind over matter, mental ninja training. All transformation happens in the mind first. If you're on that wavelength and you're ready, you're going to love this. Anyways, season's greetings, warm blessings to all.